What's up, everybody? Welcome back to 30 to Live. Today we have a special guest for us. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, who's your name and where you're from?
Okay, copy that. My name is Upumoni Siuama. Uh, I'm from Compton, California, by way of American Samoa. And in October 1993, I committed my life crime when I murdered Mr. Robert Burchell. And in 2017, September, I was released from San Quentin State Prison.
Okay. So you grew up in Compton. Were you born in California or were you born in Samoa?
American Samoa.
Okay. So you came over at a young age?
As a baby. I was the baby
Okay.
of the bunch.
That's
Yeah.
right. So you pretty much grew up out here then in California.
Yep.
Okay. So what was your childhood like growing up in Compton, California?
Growing up in the city, man, Compton, so you got to remember, Compton was going through some changes in the late 60s. So my family moved to Compton in 68 or early 69. Like I said, I was a baby, but the city was burnt down. You know, it went from middle class neighborhood to a ghetto almost overnight, especially after the 68 riots after the assassination of Dr. King. Anyway, make a long story longer. Samoans, particularly back in that era, particularly the late 60s, early 70s, the few Samoan family that was there were pretty much victimized. You know what I mean? There was easy prey for violent attack, robberies, or just some assaults. And so me growing up in that, like I said, now the 70s start coming around, and we growing up in that. And I did have a story how I wanted to, share this because it is history.
Yes.
A lot of people don't understand this history about the Samoan community, particularly in Southern California,
Right.
and then emphasizing in Compton, which is uh, basically it was like the hub back in the 60s and 70s for Samoan families coming from Samoa for low housing unit. And then, once you get a job, a family will get a job either at the shipyard in Long Beach, they will move to Long Beach, in a better neighborhood, or they will get a job at the oil refinery in Carson and will move to Carson or the harbor area and, in better neighborhoods. But particularly in Compton, those Samoan family that stay struggling or couldn't come up on those high-paying job or better-paying job,
Right.
I felt was subjected to that environment in Compton, which, like I said, was it turned almost into a ghetto overnight, like literally within the span of a couple of years. And then, here come the Samoan kid or the Samoan families growing up in this neighborhood, and at first it wasn't. At first it was racial, because
Yeah.
as early as I can remember, my parents would always tell me, just watch out for the blacks because the blacks were just terrorizing the city at those era, those decades. They was just terrorizing everything and everybody. And so, and it kind of sucked knowing that because I was Samoan, I was subject to being attacked. And we was, being the kids, easy kids to be bullied in school early on in our school years. And it wasn't until like the late 70s that our numbers got bigger, our numbers got higher. And by the time like my age group, I'll be 54 this year. So like in the late 70s, it's kind of when we made our stand, in terms of we wasn't getting bullied no more. We wasn't going to be subjected to these attacks or, these violent crimes. And then we start launching our own attacks, while we was making our stand. And
Right.
and definitely a need for reputation. So the whole identity thing growing up in the city was crucial for me and the rest of I felt the Samoan kids growing up, because now we're having like a dual identity, if that
Right.
makes any sense, like uh, growing up in a Samoan household, it was a certain way I had to be in that house. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
couldn't come in the house sagging and, gang graffiti hitting up around the house and shit. And then, but when I left the house, I also, there was another persona of mine that came out, I think in terms of survival, because, what I was being taught in the household didn't necessarily protect me out there in the streets.
Man, that's real talk, Oos. So what happened after that? You just hit the streets and you just got involved with things, street crime or whatever?
Yeah, so the neighborhood I grew up in Park Village, was it pretty much made up of Blacks and Samoans families.
Okay.
And the Park Village side mainly was the Samoan family, and the Wilmington Arms was mainly the Black families. And like about the late 70s, probably 75–80% of Park Village was Samoan family. So you're talking, hundreds of units, and so our numbers is, we're up there to where, like I said, when we finally decided to make a stand, because I remember being chased from school at an early age all the way up to, man, we were just tired of being chased. We would just run for no reason. It was just like, just run, just, what I mean? But, and as a kid, that nobody want to have that feeling, what I mean? That scary ass feeling constantly, what I mean? It's good to have fear, every now and then when, there's true reason. But like I said, it came to the point to where we was fearing nothing.
Right.
And then one of the older guys, had his little Braveheart moment with us one day, and the homie Big Rick was like, "Hey, we not running no more. This is it." And we made our stand. And then after that, just that feeling, that gratification that I got, like, man, I remember even the older people in the neighborhood was kind of like congratulating us, or they heard about what happened. We had beat up a group of other kids that was known to bully our neighborhood, and we finally kind of, took them on and beat them, and they were just like, "Hey, yeah." So it felt good. That feeling was like winning a championship, and we still was kids. It was like, man, and then and then we just, I remember the homies, we made a pact, and the neighborhood was already a gang. Park Village Crip was already existed, and we just took on the gang, took on that neighborhood, took on the Crip membership, and that label, and then the rest was history, as they say.
Right. It's crazy how gangs like that start, some of the Asian homies that I spoke to is pretty much kind of the same thing. They grow up getting bullied out there in LA, and they started their gangs for protection for their communities and things like that, man. So you get involved with all this stuff. And did you start getting locked up at an early age for your crimes, or how was that growing up?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I started off early committing crime, like I said, going back to the street life. Once I had that feeling of protecting the neighborhood was just the ultimate honor that I was feeling, and so we would start committing crimes. Not only were we attacking guys, but we would commit robberies while we attack them. The same thing they were doing to us. Now we flipping it.
Right.
And then back then, not too many people was involved in toting gun. There was always somebody had a gun, but rarely did we use it during, these robberies or altercation, unless it was dire situation. But yeah, the crime came for me. I started getting arrested when I was around 12, 13, went to juvenile hall, from juvenile hall to camp, from camp to YA. The whole, the pathway to the penitentiary, and just felt, and doing that, it was like kind of went through the same thing that we went a couple of years ago in the neighborhood. So now, because there's really no reputation for us at that time in the juvenile hall system, like in LP and Central, there was like, who is this? What are you, Mexican? Were you Crippin'? I don't get you. And, and then you got to prove yourself, and it was like, here we go again. And just lace them up, and then once again, I remember feeling that same, coming home, man, well, we heard what how you was repping the hood, and then you putting us on the map in there. And that felt good. That felt like a war hero type of thing, and I just remember man, thinking this is it. This is my life right here.
This
This
is
is
it.
my calling.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I mean? It's to the fullest right here. And so,
right. That's one thing about our peoples, man. You know, that pride kicks in and it's pretty much over, you know what I mean? Because we ride with that all the way.
yeah,
So I understand, you know, when you came home, you were feeling that, like, yeah, man, I gained this rep. This is it, and this is what I'm gonna be and what I'm gonna roll with. Yeah, it's crazy. So can I ask you, man? You know, during this time you're getting in trouble, you're still young. Like you said, you went in at 12 years old to juvenile hall. I did too. That was the same age I started getting locked up. Uh, did your parents or any family members, maybe even counselors, anybody ever try to talk to you and, you know, try to steer you right and maybe tell you to get out of this type of stuff before it gets too late or anything like that?
oh, positively. My parents was, always very strict parents, your
Hmm.
typical Samoan parents. They was heavily into the church and pressed on passing that on to me and my siblings, the gospel, and to live righteously. And then, like you say, once I start getting involved in, before even getting arrested, I was already getting, expelled and going to continuation school. So the counselors and all that, I got introduced to them. And even in middle school, early on in middle school, they start giving me counselors because I was behaving, a certain way. And so, and they would always reach out to me.
Hmm.
But it just went through one ear out the other, and I look back at those times and think, you know, man, I couldn't say that there was no, no help. That I can't take on that victim role and say, "Oh, woe is me. I didn't have no choice but to do this." I had choices. Actually, there was a lot of times, man. Almost 80% of the crime I would commit, every bone in my body would tell me, "Oh, this is wrong." You know what I mean? And some of
Yeah,
that shit we was doing was some scandalous shit. You know what I mean? We were
right.
just talking about just hurting people and for no reason other than just wearing a certain color or, just being over here when we feel you shouldn't be over here. And like I said, those things right there didn't sit well with me. But once again, just after I did that act and the accolades, just the praise I would get
Hmm.
for doing that. People would justify by, yeah, now, people would uh, be scared of coming around here, and that's
Right.
all we was trying to build. And that feeling right there, regrettably outweighed the feeling of I need to change or I shouldn't be doing
Mm.
this type of things and stuff.
Right, right. That's deep, man. And you know, even me growing up, same way, getting bullied. The first time I socked somebody in their mouth and saw that they didn't want to fight no more, you know, it kind of made me feel the same way, you know, and I just became a fighter, you know, after that bullying phase. So, you know, I feel you on that. It was, you know, just growing up that certain way and running home from school. I did all that stuff, man. And but then once you get involved in fighting back and the gangs and just living that life, you know, you kind of just forget why you ended up doing all this, you know.
Right.
And that's why I asked you that question. I always think back, you know, if I would have listened or if I would have just opened my mouth when counselors asked me questions and said, hey, you know, I just tired of getting picked on, you know what I mean? And tired of the
Right.
bullshit. Maybe we could have started something then and I could have avoided shit. So that's why I asked you that question. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
so
mentor of mine once told me, mentor of
no.
mine once told me there's two kind of people in this world, right?
Mhm.
Those that learn the easy way and those that learn the hard way.
Right.
And unfortunately, I had to learn the hard way. But to your point, looking back, now that I had learned the hard way, looking back, damn, I could have been learned the easy way. You know what I mean? It's like I didn't even have to learn the hard way. It was people there, and there was things that I could have done,
Yeah.
early on for me to learn, catch on early on in my life. But
Yeah.
it is what it is, and we here where we at.
Yeah, and those of y'all listening out there, man, that's what this was talking about, man. Like, you know, you have the choice. See, I know a lot of y'all watching us and watching these interviews, but you know, you ain't making those right choices today. But you know, we're hoping that you will, and that's why we're
It's
sharing our
hard.
lives with you. I know
Yeah,
we know it's hard. We know you going through some shit, but man, you got choices. That's real talk.
positively.
Yes, sir. So you said, you mentioned that you ended up eventually getting locked up in CYA. So, that's pretty much the young kids prison before you hit the big house. I served some time in YA myself, Preston, DeWitt, and Chad. How about you though? Like, what year did you ended up in CYA?
I was in CYA. My first stint was from 83 to 85.
Mm-hmm.
Went to Nellis. They tried to send me to camp, act up in TS. They sent me back. Then parole, violated, just doing the violation of, YA until I eventually called a case to where they sent me to the pen.
Right.
Then I did a term in the pen and then get out from that and then committed my life crime.
Wow. Wow. You was really in that life.
Yeah, NYA for me, looking back, man, once again, it could have made me or break me, but
Mm-hmm.
I allow it to break me in terms of it turned me out.
Right.
I went
Right.
in there, and that's why I really made my bone. That's why I really got my reputation, my name.
Right.
I took on this persona that, man, it was hard to keep keeping it alive. You know what I mean? Like I had to always keep the name ringing, or always had to be involved something so people know,
Right.
hey, this dude and where he from, man, it's not to be, underestimated.
Right. You had that rep already. Time to maintain. How much time
Right.
did you do in CYA?
I did a total of about 6 years.
Man,
Yeah, I was old. I was one of the oldest cat in, when they can hold you till you're 25.
25.
Yeah, I was like 24.
Mm.
They were like, man, get your old ass to the pen already.
Damn. Yeah, man. So you ended up eventually going to prison. You said you went in and did a term and then came home. You said you got a life sentence?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah, they gave
Okay.
me they gave me was rightfully found guilty of a second-degree murder and
Okay.
was sentenced 17 years to life.
Man, he said rightfully. Man,
Yeah.
that's right. Os, you went in there and paid your debt to society. And yeah, that's right. So what year was this when you ended up catching your committing offense and going to prison?
Uh, this was October '93, uh,
93.
when the murder took place.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, then they caught up with me. They didn't actually catch me till '94,
Mm. Okay. Did
but
you
and then I
go ahead?
and that was it. No, I didn't even know they was looking for me actually.
Oh,
You know what I mean? It was just one of those things, just living amok. I was just
right.
out on parole. I got kids, small children, and I
Mm,
claim I love them, but my action wasn't showing it. You know what I mean? And that's the thing too with a
mm.
lot of these youngsters today, that I want to let them know that they're torn. They're living this life. They know they want to do good for their kids, because something happened to you when you become a father, especially
Yeah.
at a young age. That give you another sense of purpose in life. But yet, when you also have this obligation, or this loyalty to the homies and to the neighborhood, and you're living a torn life. And I can acknowledge that and relate to that. And so it's hard for them youngsters to pull away from that. Uh, you're just gonna have to just muster up every love that you have for your children, because I know you're in your heart you love them and you're saying you love them, but your actions are showing otherwise.
Man, real
It's
talk.
not lining up.
That's 100. Same thing with me. I caught my life sentence when my daughter was 2. And I think about that a lot, and I'm sure you have, Oos, man. Like you said, when you have a kid, and you're a father, something just hits you there, and it hit me there. It really did. But I was thinking the same way. I had that same mentality where I had to live a certain way out here, get my money a certain way, and I just never thought about getting a job. I should have went and got a job, but yeah, Oos, man, it's crazy because the kids end up being the ones that pay for it pretty much the most, not having you home. So you say you caught a 15 to life sentence around 93. What was that like, Oos? I mean, I know my experience, but what was the experience like for you when you're standing in that courtroom and that judge pretty much told you you're never going to go home again?
Man, I remember just feeling numb. You know, it's like probably a defense mechanism that, you know, my body just went through. Because just before that feeling of numb, I remember the excruciating pain was brewing in my gut. Like, you know what I mean? Just like is something excruciating about, you know, was about to come up, and then all of a sudden I just went numb. Like the words he was saying wasn't even, you know, I wasn't even processing it. And then the family, victim of the family, was able to, you know, say some words or have a closing statement, and I blurred them out. You know what I mean? And I think it was to not feel this pain or the guilt and shame that, you know, that what was happening to me right there. This man was basically telling me, hey, you're done. Your life is pretty much done. We finna lock you away pretty much for life. Right. And I think it had that numb feeling didn't come over me. I think I probably would have passed out.
Right. Yeah, man. It's crazy to just walk in there and it seems like it happened so fast, you know, your life, you know, from childhood and up, you know, it's like before you know it, you're doing life in prison, and it just all happened so quickly. You never really had time to think, and here you are. So you end up with this life sentence. What reception did you go to, Oos?
On that one, I went to Wasco.
Wasco. Okay.
And it was just cracking from then on. That was about 94, 95, and just county jail. Everywhere was rocking, from juvenile hall all the way up to Folsom was just rocking. It was, you know, even when we got off the bus from Wasco, they was telling us, hey, you know, it's already rocking. The reception center we going to is rocking. And you know, like you said, that numb feeling to suppress all that, because just to go back on what you were saying about what I was feeling. So the remorse that we supposed to feel, right? Supposed to feel when, and the guilt and shame of, you know, committing these horrible acts and harming these people who got up and shared their loss and their feelings. And so I think for me, I had to suppress all that going through. I used that to get me through, like the war zone, Wasco, and that right there was just like, man, it's on and cracking, and this is what I signed up for, and let's go, you know, open the gates, type of mentality, like you said, just not so much giving up, but like almost kind of looking forward to this life sentence, like bring it on. If this was the hand that life dealt me, bring it on.
Then I got to do it. Yep.
Gotta do it. I'm gonna try to play it to the best.
Yes. So, you know, being that you were involved in gangs on the streets, now when you went to the penitentiary, is that something you continued while you were locked up, or did you let it go? How did that work out?
So all my YA juvenile career, I was still banging. I was still running with the Crips, particularly the Compton. So whoever was from Compton, and if you was from the Ville, that's who I sailed up with, or and even on this life sentence when I came in, all the homies was telling me, hey, when you go in with a life sentence, you know, they knew my reputation that I was just gonna claim Crip through my whole life sentence. It was just, you know, Crip till I die. And then I went to reception from Wasco. They sent me to I was supposed to go to Pelican Bay, but they sent me to New Folsom, which was on lockdown. That was in 95. And then late 95, they opened up High Desert, Sea Yard. And so they put us all on the bus with acid kickouts, shoe kickouts, and just dropped us off on Sea Yard, Upper Sea Yard. That was December 95. And it was a trip because I'd never been to a brand new prison. It was going to I'm talking about no soul has ever been in these cells on this yard. You know what I mean? It was like the first 3 buses that pulled up on Sea Yard, Upper Sea Yard. And I just remember thinking, how I'm gonna play this? You know what I mean? Because am I gonna do the USO card? you know, what we call come on. I'm gonna come home, or I'm gonna still bang with the homies and shit. And so, you know, I said I took it off like the temperature of, let's see what the, you know, as more people come on, let's see how the yard unfold. And so, man, like the first 4, 5, 6 buses coming on, all the homies from Compton, like everybody I'm comfortable with.
Right.
So coming out, Cole's here. Oh, it's on. Hey, woo, what's up, y'all? And I just felt right at home and start programming with them. Then I seen the Uso Jane that you had on your program. They had sent him up there, and he was a youngster, and he looking for guidance. And Uso was like, but he's kind of not confused, but he's kind of like, hey, Uso, what do I do? I want to kick it with you. You my folks. I feel you. You know what I mean? You're older cat, and but you're running with the muleys, and you know what I mean? It's like you're running with the Crips, and I'm not a Crip. So I was just like, hey, if you want to come over here and kick it and shit, you got to pass, come over here and kick it. But he was like, man, I want to kick it with the Asian homie, play cards with him, the other Cavalli. At that time, there was no other Samoan or Poly that was on that yard. And so it wasn't until that particular yard, it was an incident happened within, you know, the Compton card, you know, and it became racial. A couple of the homies kind of, you know, pointed their finger at me, like, he ain't even black, you know, and I was just like, well, like, you know, I never said I was black, you know what I mean? I came through here, I'm from the Ville, that's all I represent, you know what I mean, in the city. I don't represent Samoan when I'm banging with y'all, you know what I mean? I mean, it's a fact that I'm Samoan, you can tell that I'm over here with y'all, but you know, I ain't saying I never told the police I was black and shit, you know. But anyway, long story longer, it was you know, it was racial, and it was that time, you know. Then I was getting kites from my older Uso in Pelican Bay and shit, you know, sending me kites through the wire. Was like, hey, Oos, man, we still hear you down there active with the Crips and shit. You know, you got to come home. So you know what I mean? That's behind us in here. Like the prison system was shifting. In terms of, I guess, you know, our car, the Uso car was getting bigger. The other car was getting bigger. And yeah, and then it's like, because it was racial, I did start to, you know, in YA, it wasn't so much racial. Growing up as a juvenile, it was wherever you was from. That's who you got off with. Right. Then when I came to prison, everything was racial. You know what I mean? And so eventually I did feel that awkwardness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not with my race. And so, but because I came through the gates at High Desert as a Crip, you know, I just
felt like you got to ride it out. Yeah.
I got to ride it out. You know, it just so happened that the Mexicans and the blacks got into it. It was their first little war thing, and they locked everybody down. And it was that time I told the homie and shit, the little homie I was in the cell with, hey, find you another cell and shit. He was like, what's up, man? Homie? Like, well, fool, like, you know what I mean? Like, man. I was just like, nah, just something I gotta do. You know what I mean? Yeah. Told him, and then I think at that time too, I was just like, I knew that I don't think if I ever do want to go home on this life sentence, I can't be, you know, they're not gonna let a Crip go home. You know what I mean? They're gonna let me as a Crip go home. So I knew somewhere down the line that I got to drop this Crip mentality, you know, or this association. Somehow I got disassociate myself from a Crip membership. You know what I mean? Because I'm always gonna be who I am. You know, my past, how it shaped me, and you know, what molded me is always going to be there. But at this particular time in my life, I was like, man. And so I did. I let the homies know, hey, man, I'm gonna go ahead and, you know, because I had got endorsed. I went to board. I'm in classification, and my annual, and they was like, all right, you meet level 3 points, we're gonna send you to level 3. So I told the homie my plan, hey, whatever level 3 they send me to, you know what I mean, I ain't gonna go up under there as a Crip. I ain't gonna come in that yard as a Crip. And they was just like, well, talk to the homies, whoever that yard you go to, which is what they was true. I was just like, well, I'm letting y'all know. I don't want y'all to think I left here and all of a sudden, you know, just trying to clean my own name, because I still be serving a life sentence. You know what I mean? And you don't move right, that shit come back on you and shit. It's fair game and shit. And so
Yeah.
Got the Centinela. There was a couple of Usos there. Luckily, the stars lined up for me. Like our ancestor wanted me to come home. We're gonna send you to a level 3 where you're gonna be straight with the homies, the Usos and shit. And
Right,
so,
right.
yeah.
Man, that's crazy, Us, man. I feel that story all the way, man. I met a guy from your area, from your hood, up in High Desert. Same thing with him. He ran with the blacks for 6 years, and he was going to come home, but it was difficult to bring him home because he was on that yard 6 years running with the blacks. So
Yeah.
yeah, we couldn't make that
It's
decision.
tricky, man. It's tricky to
It's
rock
tricky.
around when, yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely tricky. But it could be done.
Yeah.
And like you
Yeah.
said, we're proof of that. You know what I
Right.
mean? And then
Right.
other guys came before me with proof of that. The
Right.
thing with me was coming from YA, my reputation preceded me because even cats knew when I did my first term, they was like, hey, that cat Samoan, how come he ain't over here? Like the other Samoan cats from from other areas that was already forming the USO car.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, that's Cobra from Park Village, man. I ain't got banged out. You know what I mean? He's like, he ain't with this, what we doing over here. And at the time I wasn't. You know what I mean? I still had beef with dudes that, you know what I mean, from YA that, oh, these fools here? Oh, it's on. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, continue this. But you're right. But
Yeah.
prison was racial, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And thankfully, because it was racial, it gave me a outlet that was, my past actually.
Mm-hmm.
That could tell the homies, hey, man, I can't stay with y'all, basically. I'm not
Yeah.
black. Everything is racial.
Yeah.
Everything is racial here, bro. You know what I mean? It's how I'm going to survive. I'm going to get left out of everything when it comes down to the cut. You know what I mean? If it's racial, like the blacks get this, but if I'm with y'all, where my cut at? I don't get no cut. So it just,
Right. Right.
all
Right.
those reflection and, just, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad I did, like I said, was able to get the Centinela with the homie Cosmo, Big T.
Cause.
Uh,
Yep.
yeah, and these cats, man, they already was in the system for years,
Yep.
and just to see them, I was like, man, if Mo, you know what I mean, if Mo doing this, I'm good. You know what I mean? It's a
That's right.
program that I can roll with, and so.
Yep.
And thankfully I did, man, because unfortunately our numbers is growing in there. You know what I mean? We got to figure out how to. It's
I know.
growing to where it's like it's every yard you got a big
You got the
other
Usos
card. You
there.
know what I
Yep.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy too, man. When we was in there doing that life sentence, we was always happy to see another Us hit the yard, even under the circumstances. But it's sad to see our peoples getting locked up left and right now, man. And it's always the same story. You know what I mean? We didn't have that proper direction, growing up, and someone to pull our card and really just, sit us down and talk to us about that life. We didn't have those OGs. And, so we ended up making those mistakes. But a lot of y'all got the OGs out here speaking about it now, man. So y'all don't need to go to
Yeah.
prison. You don't need to go to prison to be an Us. You also out here. You know what I mean? So we family out here. We don't need to go in there and do the struggles in there.
That's why I try to tell a lot of these youngsters, man. I say, man, today they feel the need to get their own reputation or to
Mm-hmm.
feel credible. And I tell them, man, that man, it's so much work that been so many years served, so many lives lost, so many pain suffered, so many hearts broken that's from your bloodline, that's actually
Yeah.
runs through you, to where
Yeah.
you don't have to commit nag crime to be certified. You don't
Nah,
have
man.
to join their gang to be certified.
Nope.
You like I said, it's a different. When I was a kid walking through the city of Compton, and we was preyed upon. Now a Samoan kid in Compton is walking around with his head up because he pretty much know he got a pass. He's like, because
Yeah.
those that came before him put it down to where you guys don't have to run around and join these gangs or commit these stupid crimes just to feel that, oh yeah, these are my people. You're
Right.
already certified. You're
Yeah.
certified,
Real talk,
go ahead.
Oos. Real talk, man. And I used to tell these people when they come into prison, I used to tell them all the time, you think you got that respect. The only reason why you got respect on these yards is because your peoples
Right,
before you put it down for you. You know what I
right.
mean? And so that's one thing that we all got to understand, man. Like the Uso said right here, you already straight, man. You know what I mean? The Usos, the OGs, they done did all that. They went through all that bullshit. You know what I mean? And to tell y'all the truth, man, it wasn't easy. It wasn't really worth it. It was behind a bunch of lies, but we all went through it. And we here to tell y'all today, man, you know what I mean? You don't need to go through it. You're already certified. Man, that's good shit. So, you know, eventually, you know, because obviously you're home today out here on the streets, but eventually you ended up seeing the parole board. How was that going for you? You know, when did you start seeing light at the end of the tunnel?
Man, my first parole hearing news, I didn't have a clue.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the board commissioner, asked me something about emotions, and I start singing, "You got the best of my love." He was like, I didn't have a clue. What you talking about, man? You know, remorse, all this stuff. So I was just like, man. And so at the time, that was before the Marcy law, where they can give you 15 years. That time was max was 5 years, and he not only did he give me the max, but he went on record and said, "I wish I can give you more," because I was just so clueless of the pain and harm that I caused. It was, you know, the impact that I caused. I came in there, I guess, with this, you know, like I said, this attitude that, you know, I didn't even begin to start the journey on how I came about taking this innocent person's life.